Today's video is my top 10 Seinfeld episodes, with Seinfeld being considered as one of the all-time greatest sitcoms ever, so of course it has plenty of classic episodes. But it can be hard for anyone who loves the show to choose their top 10 episodes of Seinfeld. No further ado, here's my top 10 Seinfeld episodes. Number 10, The Wife. Courtney Cox guest starred in her only appearance on the show. Plus, after this episode aired on March 17, 1994, 6 months later, Courtney Cox would be on Friends. Hey, Monica. Courtney portrayed as Jerry's girlfriend, Meryl, as the both of them pretend to be husband and wife to share his 25% dry cleaner discount. Jerry is actually having fun with the idea of a pretend wife, until things go south. Jerry ends up cheating on his girlfriend / pretend wife with another woman to give Meryl the discount. Elaine is interested in this guy she met at the gym, and the same guy who caught George urinating in the shower. I mean, come on, let's be real. I'm sure some of you probably urinate in the shower and can relate to George doing this type of stuff in your own home. Not at the gym like George did, but in your own house, let's be real. But the guy she's interested in has a thing for the gym instructor. Then he realizes Elaine and George are friends. Kramer is losing sleep since Jerry took his quilt to the cleaner. He one day gets a tan to impress his girlfriend's family. His girlfriend is black, and she's pretty, by the way, but he ends up falling asleep on a tanning bed, getting a bad tan like Ross in the One Friends episode. Kramer meets his girlfriend's family, but he appears to be in blackface. His girlfriend's father then angrily says this.
I thought you said you was bringing a white boy home. I don't see a white boy. I see a damn fool.
Kramer, not having a clue what is going on, just looking around and smiling, is priceless. His girlfriend's father was expecting his daughter to bring home a white boy, huh? I guess Kramer loved him some black women too, huh? Okay, Kramer. Number 9, The Junk Mail. Kramer is fed up with mail he doesn't want. Elaine dates a guy named Jack, and she dumps David for him. But she later finds out at Jerry's apartment that Jack used to be a comic, doing weird commercials as his alter ego, The Wiz. George has a feeling that his parents are trying to avoid him by making up excuses. And it's true. They cut him loose. They figure that now that he has his own place to himself, they'll have more time to themselves. Even though this is what George always wanted, it bothers him for some reason, saying he's not ready. George, you're ready. You've been ready, so continue being ready for it. Okay? Enjoy it. He gets his female cousin, Risa, to be in a fake romantic relationship. She is on board. She actually is cool with being in a romantic relationship with her own cousin. I mean, she's in the back of the van drinking and she's ready to get it on with her own cousin. Ew, no. Don't do that. That's your own cousin. George and his cousin run into Jerry and a guy he knew named Fragile Frankie. The four of them heard a rocking noise and sees Frank's van. Just like the song, rock the boat, don't rock the boat, baby, rock the boat, don't tip the boat over. Well, it was a van. Rock the van, don't rock the van, baby, rock the van, don't tip the van over. I like how George said, that van is a rockin'. Then Jerry says, don't go a knockin'. Jerry and George open the van doors and everyone see Frankie and Estelle getting it on. George seeing his own parents getting it on. I know it was traumatizing for George, seeing his own parents getting on. I mean, who wouldn't? Ugh. Number 8, The Pie. Jerry tries to share some delicious apple pie with his beautiful girlfriend, Audrey. But she refuses as she constantly says no, shaking her head, not giving him a reason. What's her reasoning not to eat some apple pie? Kramer tells Elaine that there is a mannequin at a clothing store, and the creepy part is, the mannequin looks exactly like her. Like, that is just weird and creepy and insane. George goes with Elaine to get an expensive suit. Kramer has a new girlfriend named Olive from Monks. And with her having long fingernails, she scratches Kramer's back for the sake of his itching. You know who really has some long fingernails? Coco from SWV. Now she really has some long fingernails. I mean, her nails are so long she can poke somebody's eyes out or maul somebody's face off, if they tend to be up to no good. George guards the expensive suit until sale day to prevent another customer from getting it, and gets distracted of the Elaine mannequin naked. It'll be even more wonderful seeing the actual Elaine naked. Jerry meets Audrey's father, Poppy, at his restaurant. Jerry goes to the bathroom as he is shocked that Poppy did not wash his hands. You nasty, Poppy. You nasty.
Oh, that's nasty.
Little nasty!
Jerry doesn't even bother eating his pizza, rejecting the same way Audrey rejected the pie. Audrey goes, Jerry, girl, you got some nerve. She also thought, which is no surprise, that she think Jerry did it to get back at her. Now you know how Jerry feels, Audrey. She'll eat apple pies at her father's restaurant, but not at Monk's. Does she find the apple pie at Monk's not as tasty or scrumptious as her own father's? George is wearing the expensive suit when walking into Monk's, but Elaine and Jerry hear a swoosh when George moves, leaving George to think he won't get a job. Elaine steals the mannequin. George, prospective employer, takes him to dinner. Everything goes well until he insists George eat some dessert. And then you got the one black guy going, if you're one of us, you'll take a bite. Yeah, well, if you're one of us, you'll put a sock in it. George does the same thing Audrey and Jerry did when rejecting the pie and pizza. He didn't get the job, but hey, at least he didn't get violently ill like the others. Because the one customer that didn't like George getting the expensive suit before he did was trying to get revenge on him. Kramer is healed from his itching that he plans on breaking up with Olive by telling her that the Elaine mannequin is his new girlfriend. By the way, the guy with the glasses that fell head over heels for Elaine when meeting her on the subway in the Cigar Store Indian episode, it's no surprise that he created all those mannequins of Elaine. Number 7, the blood. Jerry's parents seem to think he's out of shape, so he exercises with an elderly personal trainer. George gets a whiff of a candle smell when he's at his girlfriend's place. He guessed it was cream soda. His girlfriend said it was vanilla. George then runs to Monk's, starving because of that vanilla smell from the candle, eating fries, chocolate pudding. And get this, George told his girlfriend that he had to leave because he had a transfer that was still useful for an hour. Elaine looks at Jerry, then smiling. She looked at Jerry like, typical George. George is so unbelievable. George thought of having food during his and his girlfriend's lovemaking. Chocolate sauce, strawberries, pastrami sandwich on rye on mustard. He takes it to a whole new level. He takes a bite of the sandwich. George leans in to give her a kiss as she backs up to her bed with a disgusted look on her face. Kramer has been storing his own blood. Kramer is chosen by Elaine's friend Vivian to babysit her son, but Elaine feels she is a better, responsible babysitter than Kramer, as he says, "Don't be ridiculous." Oh, as in translation, yeah, right, in your dreams. Don't flatter yourself. Kramer shows up at Vivian's. Elaine rolls up behind him, whispering his name. He is hilariously startled as Elaine closed her eyes while she is pissed, like she's getting ready to cut him. She says, "It's me, you idiot." So he's an idiot because he didn't know it was you? Elaine, you could have been anyone. Elaine tells him to scram, then pushes Kramer as Vivian was coming to the door. Jerry gets upset about George creating pudding skin singles. He hits his hand on the counter as Kramer says, "Heads up!" A hobby knife flies in the air. Then Jerry looks up and he has this random hilarious expression on his face going, "Oh." It's so cartoony. What is with his expression? Jerry wakes up in the hospital and Kramer tells him he received Kramer's blood. Jerry freaks out when his eyes are all big, all cartoonish again. Then Kramer shushes him to keep it down. Then he hilariously starts screaming. It's like, why are you screaming? Elaine hates being a babysitter because of Vivian's son, so she tries to be more irresponsible, using George as a pinch weasel. George may have found his soulmate, as Vivian herself has an appreciation for pastrami as much as he does. They make love to each other, and if you notice when Vivian turns on the TV, you'll see a Seinfeld episode.
Hungry?
Number 6, the Soup Nazi. Jerry, George, and Elaine go out to a new soup stand Kramer has been raving about. Its owner is known as the Soup Nazi due to his temperament and insistence on a strict manner of behavior while ordering. Jerry explains the procedure that Elaine rejects. Jerry and George get their soups, but George notices he has no bread. Jerry tells him, just forget it, let it go. George can't let it go, as his soup is taken by the cashier. No soup for you, George. Jerry looks at him like, I told you to let it go. I told you to let it go, but you didn't listen. Keep the line moving. Elaine gets no soup, being banned for a year. Jerry and Elaine discover the Soup Nazi's secret soup recipes. She returns to his shop, recipes in her hand, and tells him,
You're through, Soup Nazi. Back it up. No more soup for you.
Number 5, the invitations. George and Susan go shopping for wedding invitations for their wedding day, and George buys the cheap brand. Susan refuses to have Elaine and Kramer invited to the wedding, especially Kramer for calling Susan Lily, since he thinks she looks like a lily. No, she does not. She looks like a Susan to me. She also didn't invite him because he's clumsy. So it's not Kramer's fault. George now wants to get out of the wedding. Elaine suggests he smokes, since Susan doesn't like it. It causes George to get sick. Kramer suggests a prenup. So when George talks to Susan about it, she just laughs, since George does not have any money while Susan makes more money than him. Then she goes, oh yeah, give me the papers, I'll sign them. Jerry and Elaine realize that once George is married, it would just be them and Kramer, although Elaine might leave the group, leaving Jerry to imagine him and Kramer in the future as older men. He is almost hit by a car until a woman named Jeannie saves him. Plus, they both have a lot in common. They both have the same initials. They both like cereal, even eating cereal at restaurants and reading comic books. Just like George, Jerry also found his soulmate. George goes out as Susan stays home to get the invitations ready. Like George and Susan, Jerry and Jeannie are also engaged, but Jerry feels he made a big mistake. As Susan licks the envelopes, she notices they taste funny. She doesn't stop, as she continues to lick more and more envelopes. The sicker she gets, the more and more she's not feeling well. You would think that after a couple licks she would have stopped, but no, she kept going. Then she passes out, so it's lights out for Susan. Night-night, Susan. George returns home, finding Susan collapsed on the couch. Jerry, Elaine, and Kramer met up with George at the hospital. Susan died due to licking the envelopes that had toxic glue on it. George seems sad but relieved that Susan is gone. George is sad that his fiancée has died because this was the woman that she was about to marry, but at the same time, he doesn't have to worry about getting married to her because he wouldn't have been able to see Jerry, Elaine, and Kramer that much anyways. Now single again, George tries to get with his actress Marissa, but she hangs up on him. She obviously thought it was disrespectful for a guy to ask her out when his fiancée just died, even though he's single again. I don't know what George was thinking. Number 4, The Merv Griffin Show. Such a classic funny episode. Kramer discovers the old set of The Merv Griffin Show in a dumpster. George's girlfriend Miranda is disgusted when he ran over some pigeons with his car, believing the pigeons and humans have a deal, but the pigeons broken the deal. Jerry's girlfriend Celia won't let him play with her toy collection. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to Jerry in this episode. Woman, would you let him play with the toys? Kramer recreates the Merv Griffin show set in his apartment. He also pretends the show is still on air using the theme when guests come onto the set, having interviews of everyone who enters his apartment. He even stops interviews to cut to a commercial break. Jerry ends up drugging Cecilia so he can finally play with her toys. Jerry and George have a wine and turkey dinner, giving Cecilia plenty of wine to drink and plenty of turkey with gravy for Cecilia to fall asleep. What's the amino acid found in turkeys that makes you sleepy?
Tryptophan. I think.
Elaine joins them, playing with an easy bake oven. Miranda insists George pays for the surgery to fix the squirrel. Kramer changes his format on the show to scandals and animals due to ratings. That's when Celia shows up, finding out about Jerry drugging her. George arrives with the squirrel to get animal expert Jim Fowler his opinion, and the hawk goes after the squirrel but attacks George. Number 3, The Outing. At Monk's, Elaine notices a woman named Sharon in a nearby booth eavesdropping, and Elaine, as a prank, speaks to Jerry and George as if they were a closet gay couple. Sharon is a New York University reporter who interviews Jerry. Jerry and George eventually recognize her from the coffee shop after her misconception that they are a gay couple. During the interview, they kept telling her, not that there's anything wrong with that. That's what they said the entire episode. Jerry proves to Sharon he is straight. Then, in a typical cowardly fashion, arriving at Jerry's apartment, George uses his fake orientation as an excuse to break up with his girlfriend Allison. Jerry has no clue what is going on. Sharon believes the boys lie to her, hiding the fact that they are lovers, and leaves. Number 2, the Cigar Store Indian. Jerry and George are at a furniture store getting a new furniture table since there is a stain on the original table. He meets a woman who is fascinated and has a thing for George. She also has a nasally voice and New York accent like Fran Drescher of The Nanny. George takes her back to his parents' home, pretending it's his, obviously. I'm pretty sure George probably think that she would have rejected her or she'll be turned off about a man who still lives with their parents and doesn't have a job. Jerry is head over heels for a beautiful Native American woman named Winona. But she is offended when Jerry, who was unaware of her ethnicity, presents Elaine with a Cigar Stone Indian as a peace offering. Jerry offends her even more by using inappropriate language, which could pass for racial epithets, in a note and rocking it back and forth, mimicking Native American chants. Winona is so angry and disgusted, she leaves. Jerry tries to make amends with her by going out on a date. Frank and Estelle returns home, and Estelle found a condom wrapper in her and Frank's bedroom. And Frank discovered his TV guide was missing, so he grounds George. Really? You ground your adult child, your adult son? I mean, yeah, sure, he's still living in your house, but don't you guys think that seem a bit weird and awkward for parents to still, like, ground or punish their children, even when they're now adults? I mean, you're not little kids anymore. I just think that's weird. Elaine arrives with a copy of the TV guide. Oh, there's a guy with the glasses again who is madly in love with Elaine. Kramer meets Elaine's boss, who offers to buy the Cigar Store Indian for $500. Also, Kramer pitching his idea for a coffee table book about coffee tables. The same woman George has sex with runs into Estelle at the furniture store, and she says to the woman that George doesn't have a job and is a bum, a lazy bum. She found out the truth about George. The great Al Roker makes his appearance as the episode ends. And lastly, my number 1 Seinfeld episode is The Contest. This episode is likely to be number 1 on anyone's top 10 list on their Seinfeld episodes. This episode was ranked number 1 on TV Guide's 2009 list of 100 greatest episodes of all time. Larry David wrote the episode since comedian Kenny Kramer claimed that there was a contest David won.
I want to be in on this too.
Oh, no. That's oranges.
What?
It's a different thing because you're a woman.
So what?
It's easier for a woman not to do it than a man. We have to do it. It's part of our lifestyle.
The foursome made a bet on who can go the longest without masturbation. However, they don't use the word masturbation during the entire episode. Kramer was the first one to lose a bet due to him being so distracted looking at a nudist across from Jerry's apartment. Then Elaine is next to lose, as Jerry and George were the only two left. Jerry has a virgin girlfriend named Marla, portrayed by the beautiful Jane Leeves, aka Daphne Moon of Frasier. Daphne, what are you doing in New York? Shouldn't you be back in Seattle with Frasier, Niles, and their father Martin? Daphne, I mean Marla, sorry, thinking of Frasier. Marla is ready to have sex with Jerry until he mentions the contest. Marla is furious and leaves. So it looks like George won, I guess. I mean, after all, Larry David won the contest in reality. Plus, George is based largely on Larry David himself. Although in the finale, 5 years later, George admits he cheated and that Jerry was the true master of his domain. Oh, George, why did you have to cheat? Why did you have to cheat? Well, those are my top 10 Seinfeld episodes. Of course, there are honorable mentions. The Chinese restaurant, the library, the Hamptons. Man, it was hilarious when Kramer saw the one couple's baby that Jerry and Elaine sees as ugly. Oh my goodness, when he saw that baby, his reaction when he's like, yeah! Oh my goodness, that was hilarious. The man looked like his eye was burning, or he had an eyelash stuck in his eye. It was hilarious. I love Kramer. I love Kramer. The doll. Man, that one creepy doll insanely looks like Estelle. Oh my goodness, that's creepy. The little kicks. Yeah, that same episode where Elaine can't dance. Although, I remember one time in one Seinfeld episode, she was a pretty good dancer.
Because I'm a woman. Ba-ba-ba-ba-boom, chicky, boom, chicky, boom, boom.
The pothole. Yes, the episode where Jerry's one girlfriend, she has a toothbrush that falls into the toilet by accident. And Jerry doesn't have the nerve to tell her. He keeps having that thought of the toothbrush falling in the toilet, and then it leads to the image of his girlfriend with the kissy lips trying to get a kiss from Jerry. Jerry, she's a cutie. You better kiss them cute lips, even though those cute lips probably smell like toilet. Who cares? Give her a smooch. The Serenity Now. Is that Lori Loughlin of Full House? Lori Loughlin in a Seinfeld episode, ladies and gentlemen. And Becky, what you doing in New York with Jerry? Where's Jesse? Are you cheating on him? Plus, Lori Loughlin's legs in this episode is looking very nice. Lori Loughlin overall looking flawless as always. Tell me your top 10 Seinfeld episodes in the comment box. And you can also mention honorable mentions if you like. All right, that's it. See you later.